Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the first session, the first live Q&A session here on the Sunni Defense. Alhamdulillah, it seems like we already do have some questions. I guess I'm going to address this one first since it has to do with the channel in general. Brother Mo asked, before that, Sabdo asked, can you address the live discussion on the Bayat al-Ghadir, or the Bayat al-Ghadir had a few days ago? Inshallah, we're planning to do that tomorrow. We're going to have two brothers on. I'm sure some of you will be very excited to have Hassan Shamrani on live, as well as Brother Hani, and they're going to share their thoughts, and it's going to be something very different than what most of you are probably expecting, but I don't want to ruin it, so inshallah we're going to get to that tomorrow. Brother Mo asked about taqiyya, and there's a lot to say about the concept of taqiyya in Shi'ism. His question was about debating with Shias who do taqiyya, and how does that, come into play. Well, generally, the first thing you have to keep in mind is that Shias, of course, they have narrations about the importance of taqiyya and doing taqiyya. However, from my personal experience, when talking to a Shi'i, face-to-face or online, especially online, it seems like Shias don't do taqiyya anywhere as much as what we find attributed to the Imams. Because in Shi'i narrations, you'll find the Imams answering questions in a way, in a way completely different than, they originally believe in. So they would say that, for example, a very, very commonly quoted example is they would say that taqiyya, they would say that mut'a is haram. And then they'd have another narration saying that mut'a is halal. And then they would say that the narration that the Imam says mut'a is haram, that's a narration that's said under taqiyya. Now, you will never find a Shi'i in the real world or online saying that mut'a is haram. They all say it's halal. So what you will find is Shi'is, being more politically correct, perhaps, about their views in regards to the Sahaba. You will find that, but you won't find, the extreme form of taqiyya that you find attributed to the Imams. This is just something to keep in mind. Inshallah, if that's satisfactory, I'll move on. I'm sorry, guys. I don't want to be too. I don't want to get into too much details in regards to some of these questions. I'd like to keep it short in order to get through as many questions as possible. I'm shocked to find 22 people online at the moment, because usually it starts off really slow. It starts off with 10 people, so it goes up to 15, and then we usually end up with, 30 to 40. But now we just started off and we're 24. This is, I didn't expect too many people on too early. Okay, so another question. Let's see here. I just need to scroll upwards because I don't want to miss anything. All right, Brother Ikhlas Khan says, can you talk about the Battle of Jamal? No way, akhi. Not because I'm trying to hide anything about Jamal. It's because Jamal is too big of a topic. So I'm afraid that's not something I can cover at the moment. Unless you have a specific question about Jamal, then yeah. But in general, I can't do that. Another question, can you answer the point the Shia bring about Aisha bathing in front of men? It would be good to clarify the lie they bring. Okay, so Aisha bathing in front of men is referring to a narration in which I believe it's Abu Salama bin Abdurrahman bin Auf and another, I don't know if it's a companion or a tabi'i who was there at the time. They go up to Aisha and ask her about how one is supposed to bathe. And yes, the narration is authentic. However, you have to keep in mind that the narration itself clearly states that she put a partition between her and them. That's number one. And number two is that they are related to her. So it's not like, she's showing her hair or anything like that to people who aren't relatives. I do believe we have an article on that on 12vershia.net. Let me just look it up real quick because, it would be kind of weird if there wasn't, right? You give me a second, and then I'll gladly link it, or at least I might provide in the description later on. Do give me a second, guys. Alhamdulillah, the website it's been up for, I think, 4 to 5 years now. And alhamdulillah, it's really rare to find a shubha that Shi'is bring that, you won't find on the site. We've been through so many of their shubuhat, especially in the refutation section. Alhamdulillah, I don't think there is a place where you can find as many refutations. However, I do not think that we have one on this topic, which is quite strange. I'm just using the search feature at the moment. The search feature is extremely useful for this sort of thing. Yeah, I don't think we have a narration, a topic, a refutation on the site. Inshallah, if we really don't, and I'll definitely get to it in the coming 2 or 3 days. If I do find it on the website, I'll definitely link to it through the Twitter account. Yeah, this is strange. I assumed that we would have something like that on the site because it is something I do hear quite often. Another section on the site that I'd suggest going to is the section on the companions. You'd find it on the top tab, and there's a little section on Aisha, and there's a bunch of refutations to topics that Shi'is bring up. Okay, so we have one on Aisha and Surah Tahrim. Just do give me a second here. Yeah, I don't think we have anything on that topic. Inshallah, give me 48 hours max. I'll have a topic online, inshallah, on 12vershia.net. All right, moving on. I'm sorry about that, but yeah, it's something. Inshallah, it's not too. It's a straightforward. There's a straightforward answer to that, inshallah. Okay, so next question. Are there any Sahih Hadith in our books of Ahl Sunnah that say Sayyidina Umar attacked Sayyidah Fatima? There isn't. The most authentic narration on that topic, okay, and when I say most authentic, I'm not saying authentic, I'm saying most authentic, is a narration of Aslam, the Mawla of Umar, who narrates that Umar threatened to drag out Ali and Zubair and to burn the house of Fatima down. That's the most authentic narration, and it's disconnected. And it mentions nothing about an attack. It only mentions a threat. So that's the most authentic narration, and it's weak. As for the narrations that suggest that there was an attack, those are a lot weaker. And I had a brief discussion with Sayyid Mahdi Mudarrisi on that topic. And I did mention that it was Alwan bin Dawood that narrates all those reports. He quotes like 7 sources, and they all go through the same narrator, Alwan bin Dawood, and he's a very weak narrator. So yeah, to briefly answer your question, there's nothing authentic about Umar bin Khattab attacking Sayyidah Fatima alayha salam. So rest assured about that. And there's even Fadlallah, Ayatollah Fadlallah passed away, who passed away about, 5 years ago, 6 years ago. Major Shia scholars said that even Shias don't have an authentic narration on that topic. So, yeah, if that's something that Fadlallah is saying, that definitely has weight. Someone with the username Kurdi asks, does one enter kufr if he curses the righteous companions? The quick answer to that is no. And I believe that the most extreme punishment would be that one would be flogged for something like that. And that's a form of ta'zir, not a had. It's not a specified punishment. So no, if one cursed a companion, one wouldn't be put to death or anything like that. It's not considered to be kufr or apostasy, or anything that extreme. You see, here's something else though. Some scholars have come to the conclusion that cursing Aisha specifically could land you into kufr, but that's because, or excuse me, for accusing her of adultery, they would, say that that's a statement of kufr. So yes, you do have some scholars referring to specific scenarios of cursing the Sahaba or accusing the Sahaba of some things, or a blanket curse on all the Sahaba perhaps. But to answer the general question of does one become a kafir for cursing a certain companion, then from what I'm aware of, the answer is no. Okay, someone just commented you would have more viewers if the Champions League match wasn't parallel to this stream. Well, akhi, those guys need to, figure out their schedules and need to work their way around our streams, man. Don't you agree? All right, Asif Hussein asks, can you clarify the shubha about Sayyid Ali's group keep jumping up and down about Salafis believe Allah is a physical being? Inshallah, tomorrow, around this time, maybe an hour earlier, maybe around 8 o'clock UK time, something around that, we will be having a live stream with Hassan Shamrani and Brother Hani on that topic, the topic of Tajseem and whatnot. So stay tuned for that. Okay, here's another one. I've always wondered why the Shia hated Umar so much. Why is that? I guess it all goes back to the topic of why Ali wasn't the first Khalifa. I believe it all goes back to that. And the belief that Ali was supposed to be the first Khalifa and Abu Bakr and Umar allegedly taking the Khilafah away from him, I believe that's the start of it all. And if that didn't happen, if Ali became the first Khalifa, then I don't think that any of this would have happened. I don't think that Shi'ism would have existed, to be honest, if that happened. And no one, and the Shi'is wouldn't be hating on Umar. Now, we do find people arguing that it's a Persian thing, and that Shi'as hate Umar because Umar invaded Persia. Now, I don't honestly believe that's the case, and I take the apparent reason, which is they believe that Ali was supposed to be the Khalifa and not Abu Bakr and not Umar and not Uthman. And history, decided differently, and those three caliphs, took their positions first, and I guess that's the main reason. Wallahu a'lam. Okay, regarding the topic of tahrif, Shias and some Christians often bring a Sunni narration, that a goat ate a manuscript. Could you please clarify this? The narration is weak. I believe it's a narration from Ibn Ishaq through Aisha. I think it's in Sunan Ibn Majah. And Ibn Ishaq is a known mudallis, and he narrates the hadith without stating that he heard the narration. This is off the top of my head, though, but so don't take my word for it. Do look it up on the website. The website definitely has an answer to this one. I do recall writing something on this topic, but briefly, what I do recall is it's a weak narration. And here's the thing: if a goat ate it, if a goat ate, a document from the Mus'haf, what does that mean? Does that mean that none of the Sahaba recalled the verse? Obviously not. The Quran was written based on the writings and the memories of the collective group of Sahaba. So Zayd bin Thabit would have definitely remembered that verse. Remember, the Quran wasn't just based on the writing, it was based on the memory, the collective memory of the people who prayed behind the Rasulullah ﷺ, who prayed behind him and recited the Quran to him and heard him reciting the Quran time and time and time again. It makes no sense that none of the Sahaba heard the Quran at all, except for someone who wrote it on a parchment, and that was lost because a goat ate it. Okay, so yeah, very briefly, the narration is weak. Carrying on. Do excuse me, guys, for a bit. It seems like the chat... all right, it was acting up for a second. Now it's fine. Do give me a second, guys. Why don't you peoples... Oh, I don't know if this is a question to us or to the Shias in the chat. I don't know. Why don't you people speak against atheism, secularism? I think that's a question, for some Shias here. Wallahu alam. But inshallah, some good news. We are planning to expand and not just focus on Shiism. We will be responding to some other problematic channels out there, including, I don't know if you guys have heard of Ishmael, the guy from Don't Convert to Islam. Inshallah, we're going to be starting some responses to him, inshallah, in the near future. Can you attempt to refute the Shia's understanding of why Ali named his child Abu Bakr? Okay, now I'm gonna share my thoughts on this, and I don't know if you guys are gonna like it. Here's the thing. I used to argue this, but I don't argue it anymore. Now, the reason is, it's because Abu Bakr, of course, is a kunya, and the son of Ali bin Abi Talib, I believe his name was Muhammad. His kunya was Abu Bakr. Now, does that mean that Ali gave Muhammad, his son, the kunya Abu Bakr, or was it his son that adopted the name Abu Bakr himself? Now, it's not easy to prove. Actually, I don't think it's possible to prove that Ali gave him the name Abu Bakr. So if that's the case, then the most that can be said is that Ali's son named himself Abu Bakr, which was a rare name at the time, and this shows that he had loved or admired Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. That's the most that can be argued. However, I think it's tough to argue that this is evidence that Ali loved Abu Bakr. Now, there are other evidences that Ali loved Abu Bakr, including the praises in our books. And there are a lot of narrations in which Ali praises Abu Bakr in our books. So I think that those should be used much more than, just the belief and the reality that he had a son with a kunya Abu Bakr. So me personally, I like to be very specific with my arguments. I like to choose my best arguments. I don't like to use arguments that can be shrugged away. But yeah, I mean, it's commonly used, this one, but I'm personally not a fan of it. I think the other son of Ali, I think that's a stronger one. I think arguing that his son's name was Umar, that that Ali named his son Umar. Now a Shi'i can say he named his son after Umar bin Salama, right? Now that's not the best response by a Shi'i. And we, of course, always respond by saying, okay, طيب, Ali named his son after Umar bin Salama. Why don't you, ya Shi'i, name your son after Umar bin Salama? And, the answer is obvious. It's because of their hatred for Umar bin Khattab. And naturally, a Shi'i, or naturally, Ali wouldn't name his son after, or even if it was a common name, let's assume it was a common name during that time, you still wouldn't name your son after the killer of your wife, if that's a Shi'i view, or the person that stole your khilafah. Someone you hate so much, you're not gonna put his name up. You're not gonna name your son after him, or name your son a name similar to his. It's just human nature. Look at the names of Ali's sons. Look at the names of his sons. Abdullah, Ubaidullah, Muhammad, some very common names, or names that are just praiseworthy, or names that are associated, to Allah, Abdullah, Ubaidullah. And then you have Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, that's a better argument, to argue that all three were names chosen by Ali for his sons. That's a strong argument, even though the first one, Abu Bakr, you can't really prove that that's a name Ali chose for his son. Unless you guys can prove me wrong, I'm open to it. But at the moment, it's not a question, it's not an argument I like to, bring forth. Carrying on, I kind of spent quite a bit on that one. Did Abu Bakr get appointed by Allah? There's a difference of opinion on that. And the stronger view is that he didn't. And Umar bin Khattab, I believe in an authentic narration, does say that. He says that he's having a discussion with his son. His son says, appoint a caliph on his deathbed. He says to Umar, appoint a caliph on your deathbed. And Umar says, I have two choices. One is to follow Rasulullah who didn't appoint anyone, or to follow Abu Bakr, who did appoint someone. And then Ibn Umar knew that Umar is not going to appoint anyone. So Umar, of course, kept it open between 6 people. So that is, that suggests that, Umar himself did not believe that Abu Bakr was appointed. Carrying on. It seems like some of the questions here are tossed against each other. Um, I'm trying to figure. Sometimes I'm trying to figure out: is this question for me or for someone else? What's the reasons? What are the reasons for early people believing in tahrif? Well, I believe it's 2 main reasons. The first reason is that Umar compiled the Quran. That's enough of a reason for a Shia to believe in tahrif. Of course, there are no clear indications of the Imam of Ali or Imama in general in the way that Shias believe in Imama. So due to that, it's only natural for an early Shia at least to believe in tahrif. The second reason is due to the existence of alternative or various recitations, and due to that, it's common for people to assume that these are mistakes, and Shias, of course, didn't really pay attention much to the concept of variant recitations. And due to that, they have narrations that say that. They say that there are no recitations. It's just one recitation. Of course, they have major issues with that and proving that. And that deserves a topic on its own. That deserves a whole lengthy discussion on its own, and to show how Shias have had a lot of trouble with that one. Of course, this goes without saying, but Shias pretty much take all their ilm when it comes to recitations from us, even though their narrations say that there's only one authentic recitation. Very briefly, they don't know what that recitation is. According to the orthodox Shia opinion, it's not the recitation of Hafs and Asim. So what Shias are reciting today, they should not believe in. But we'll get to that in a different time. There are some narrations that prove that, basically, but we'll get to that in a different time. What are the best books to read about the Sahaba? In the English language, I honestly don't have any suggestions, unfortunately. In the Arabic language, there are many books. There are many books. It depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for merits of the Sahaba, then I guess the best thing is Fada'il al-Sahaba by Imam Ahmed. He does a great job in collecting them. I really think that's the best book. If you're looking for the stuff about the Khulafa, perhaps Al-Azmi's books. He has one on Abu Bakr and then on Umar. They're quite good. I'm not a fan of Salabi's books much, to be honest. There's another work by Al-Ghabban on the death of Uthman, which I strongly recommend. Al-Faqihi has a book on Khilafat Ali, which I strongly recommend. Akram Diya Al-Umari has a book on the Khulafa, strongly recommended. MashaAllah, beautiful book. Those are my recommendations. But yeah, in regards to Fada'il al-Sahaba, just pick up Fada'il Imam Ahmed, 2 volumes long, beautiful book, edited by Wasiullah Abbas, and mashallah, good takhrij. He really, did a great job. All right, moving on. Hani says Faqihi's book cannot be found anywhere at this point. I'm sorry, Hani. I'm sorry, Akhi. I tried to look, I tried to look it up for you. I couldn't find it. I did visit, I think it was Maktabat al-Rushd in the book fair. That's where I got my copy from, and it wasn't there. Yeah. My issue is that I'm having a hard time typing in the chat. For some reason, it's acting up. Hani, if you could, I really appreciate it. If you could type out those names. So the books of Al-Azmi, Al-Faqihi's book, Al-Ghabban's book. Al-Ghabban's book, I believe, is called Maqtal Uthman. Al-Faqihi's book is called Khilafat Ali. Fada'il Sahaba by Imam Ahmed. If someone can type those out, I really appreciate it. Abu Muslim says, read the books of Ali Sallabi about the Sahaba. Those, in the English language, I don't think there's anything else, to be honest. So I guess he's right about that. But in the Arabic language, you should definitely read the others. Zain, I'm trying to find your question. I think I just missed out on it. Let me try to find it. Give me a second here. Very quickly, are you guys going to refute other Shia sects like Ismailis, Zaydis, and Alawites? I'm definitely not going to, and I don't think any of the boys know enough about Ismailis, Zaydis, and Alawis. Wallahu alam. One sec, guys. Still trying to find Zain's question. Zain, I guess if you could please type it again. Okay, so Livers BBK asked, my question is, would you do a reply to the 12ers video who accused you of misinterpreting? Depends on the video, Akhi. If it has something to add, then inshallah. If it has nothing to add, then not really. Wa alaikum salam wa barakatuh. What a surprise, Brother Hani. What brings you what brings you here?
Lunch break.
Oh, that's great. That's great. MashaAllah.
When your boss is not here, you do your shay stuff.
Oh, I'm sure. Good to have you on here, Akhi. It takes the pressure off me.
Yeah, it'll help you with some of those awkward silent moments.
Oh yeah, definitely. Jazakallah khairan. Were they really awkward?
I don't know. I just came on about 15 minutes ago, and I heard you answering that question about what was it? You mentioned something about tahrif, the reasons why they do tahrif and stuff like that.
Bro, I'm gonna quickly toss a question to you. Zain, if you don't mind, please do ask your question again. I'm sorry I missed out on it. It seems like there's a Shia here who's asking a question. Hani, I'm gonna toss this to you, inshallah, if you don't mind.
Well, if I know the answer, I won't, hold it back.
Okay, so he says, how can someone be a successor of the Prophet if he is not chosen by the Prophet or by Allah?
How can someone be a successor if he's not chosen? Well, being a successor, linguistically speaking, means someone who succeeded somebody else. You don't necessarily have to be chosen. So when you bring me the rule that says a successor has to be chosen, then we can discuss your theory. But for now, that's just the theory that a successor has to be handpicked.
Okay.
I mean, just the fact that he came after him linguistically in Arabic means he's a khalaf, he's a khalifa to him. So he came after him in that sense.
All right. Inshallah, that's sufficient. Okay, Zain asks, is smoking in Muharram considered as matam since it hurts the body too? That's a very strange question. I don't think it does. I don't know if that's a serious question, to be honest.
I think he's joking.
Yeah, probably.
And
Okay.
it is halal according to them, smoking.
Okay, Amr Ali, the same Shi'i who asked that question, was said there was no such thing as political and religious leader. It was just leader of Muslim. I'm not sure what the question is.
Yeah, and the leader, he has some political duties, such as economic, military, conquests. These are political. Distributing, shares, and this is all political. And then there's the religious aspects that he has to make sure that the Muslims, have places of worship, that they are free to worship, that Islamic law is being applied in the courts of justice. There's courts and there's judges. They have to be appointed. That the Book of Allah, is a part of the Constitution. So it has both aspects to it.
Devin McDonald says, Salam Baba Farid. That's just funny. Well, will Abu Ammar be on the channel again? I don't ever recall being called Baba Farid, so I just found that kind of okay. So he says his interview was amazing, Alhamdulillah, and I'm glad to read that, because Abu Ammar was kind of nervous, and I'm glad to see that many of those listening enjoyed it. Do share as much love as you can, guys. Do like that video. Do share some comments in the comments section under Abu Ammar's video to let him know that it was a touching story. I told him it was touching. I mean, it touched me, especially the part where he was talking about Taraweeh. That touched me. So do let him know if it touched you. All right, here's an interesting question. Are the imams just religious leaders or political leaders too? Honey?
According to the Shia or according to us? And what imams are we talking about? We're talking about Abu Bakr, Umar, or we're talking about the 12 imams here?
I'm assuming it's the 12 imams.
According to the Shia, the 12 imams are in control of everything. They should be in control of politics and religion. However, they give the 12ers, they give priority to religion. So they will tell you, even though Ali, for example, was not the head of state, yet he was still the religious authority. So they mean that the imams are in charge of everything. They are the leaders of the universe, of the world, according to Shia. So everything in the world, politics and economy and anything you want. That's according to Shia.
Hani, do you know much about Safawiyin? Because there's some questions about the Safawiyin and stuff of that nature.
Hassan would know. I know a little bit.
Okay, it says, the question is, do you guys know how/why the Safavid order went from a Sunni Shafi'i Sufi order to an Alawi Rafidi army? Any idea?
I would assume what happened is that, yeah, they were Sufi, but they were not, there's all types of Sufis out there. And these guys were more of an extreme Sufi, I guess, when it comes to stuff related to Ahlul Bayt. I think just to, as a political opposition to their Ottoman cousins, they just adopted an opposing madhab. It's very possible that was the case.
Okay. I don't know if you can answer this one. Why do Shias keep on depicting Ali and Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, in movies and pictures and statues and effigies?
Because they're affected by a lot of the practices that happen in the subcontinent. You know, the same way Hindus and whatnot portray their gods, you know, Shiva and Ganesh and all of that. And so they took from them, and they didn't see anything wrong with it, so they kept doing it. Zoroastrians in Iran as well, they portray, you know, their Zoroaster and all of those Majusi figures, the Magian figures.
All right.
So it's, yeah.
Okay, so here's another question that's been answered previously, but it should be repeated because it's a very common question. Did Emir Muawiyah radiallahu anh, actually ever make people curse Sayyidina Ali alayhi salam? The answer is, okay, so there are two possible answers to this one. One is, I've heard this one, and I don't, it's not something I lean towards much. Muhammad ibn al-Didu, I think that's how it's pronounced.
Wald al-Didu?
Wald al-Didu, yes. He says that, you know, the narration that says so is weak. That Muawiyah told Sa'ad, I believe, to curse Ali. But me personally, I don't even argue that. I just say going to war with Ali is worse than cursing Ali. So yeah, so I'm open to believing that Muawiyah cursed Ali. I do not believe that Muawiyah made it a part of, you know, the legislation to curse Ali on the manabir, because
that's true.
Yeah, because during the time of Sa'id bin al-As, when Sa'id bin al-As was, you know, the ruler of Medina, he never cursed Ali. When Marwan bin Hakam was the leader of Medina, he cursed Ali, which just goes to show that it was never legislation. And yeah, so going to war with Ali is worse than cursing Ali, of course. And yet, we had a discussion about Muawiyah and the merits of Muawiyah, and Muawiyah, inshallah, his merits are greater than his sins. So that's you know, of course, and we try to you know, judge things fairly instead of just holding on to one thing and then to completely condemn someone for one thing. We look at all aspects of Muawiyah's life and try to come to a conclusion based upon that. Okay, here's one for you, Hani. Is the Shia belief of divinely appointed infallible imams a rejection of the finality of prophethood?
It conflicts with it, because the only difference between an imam and a prophet, according to the 12er Shia, is the name. One is called prophet and one is called imam. In fact, if you're worrying that it negates the finality of prophethood, it's actually worse than that, because the majority of them believe that imams are greater than prophets. So it's not like we're saying, oh, this is a continuation of it. The imams are actually so much better than the prophets, according to 12er Shia. So it's a lot worse. If you want, we can elaborate more on some of the commonalities between a prophet and an imam, according to Shia.
Go for it, Hani. Go for it.
All right. So both are appointed by God. I'm just speaking at the top of my head right now.
Yeah.
Both are appointed by God, so the appointment is similar. Both can do miracles. Both are infallible. They cannot do any errors. Both know the entirety of the religion, you know, and they know all the religious rulings. Both can speak to angels, and they get updated by angels. In fact, the imams get updated by angels on any new rulings that may come to be after the death of the Prophet ﷺ. I mean, just if we take it to this extent, I think we pretty much have other prophets. I mean, their obedience is obligatory. They're supposed to be the leaders. So they're pretty much prophets.
Okay, how about this? can the Imams bring something new as Sharia? And isn't that the main difference?
I mean, no, there's two types of uh, uh, people that God chooses. There's messengers and there's prophets. Messengers always come with a new book, and messengers are a minority. We know 5 of them. There could be more. I don't know. But we know 5 for sure. And the prophets are the majority. The prophets, they don't bring any new rulings. The prophets, they just remind the people of the religion of the messenger that preceded them. So they remind them of the religion which they lost or which they ignored, and they try to revive that religion. In this sense, the imams don't really need to bring new books so that they can be called messengers. They are the same as prophets in the sense that they revived, the Islamic rulings, and they do the role. They fulfill the role of reminders, which is the role of usually the common role of prophets. Also, I would say that the yeah, that's a short answer, I would say, for now.
All right. In regards to the number of messengers, I do believe that the Quran mentions or specifies more than 5 as messengers. But we'd need to dig them up exactly. I don't recall how many there are, but I'm sure it's more than 5, though. All right. Here's a question. Can someone please answer me this? Was Muawiyah one of the scribes of the Quran? Would you like to answer that, honey?
I would say yes. We do have, I think, textual evidence from history that he used to write down. And the Prophet ﷺ would make use of anybody who is educated, anyone who can read and write. The Prophet would utilize them, ﷺ, so that they can benefit Islam and the message of Islam. And so Muawiyah was a part of that.
All right. In my opinion, I do know for a fact that Muawiyah was a writer or a scribe for Rasulullah ﷺ. I am open to believing that he wrote the Quran or he wrote, parts of the Quran. I'm very open to that. However, I do not recall any, specific narrations or authentic ones that specifically mention him writing the Quran. But I don't see what's the issue with that. You get what I'm saying? I don't see that, I don't see it as an impossibility. I mean, the lack of, because here's the thing, how many and we do know that the Quran wasn't just like written by one person in front of Rasulullah ﷺ. It was a bunch of people that randomly wrote, whoever was available would write. And I don't think there is a list of narrations that say, Fulan wrote, Fulan wrote, Fulan wrote. They just, it didn't seem like, hadith compilers focused on that much. So, wallahu alam. Wallahu alam.
I do remember the story of, there was somebody, maybe it was a munafiq, who used to be writing down, and then he would start changing words without telling the Prophet. Have you heard of something like that?
Yeah, but I need to look it up. I need to look up authenticity. It's one of those.
I don't know who he is. I forgot the name. There's.
Yeah. Okay. This question is for me. Why didn't Ali give his Quran during his time as Khalifa? Akhi, please be more clear with that question. Do you mean the real, like Mus'haf Ali, as in like Ali's real Mus'haf, or are you talking from the Shi'i, point of view? There is a difference.
I think he means the weak narration that's disconnected from Muhammad ibn Sirin, that there is a Mus'haf collected by Ali according to the order of revelation, and that's not even accurate. I think it's attributed to Akrama, maybe from Muhammad ibn Sirin.
Wallahu a'lam. If the brother can clarify, that would be good. Okay, here's a question. Is Matem more religious or cultural? Because some Shias portray it as religious and some cultural. But I see Shias doing Matem everywhere, so it can't be cultural. What are your thoughts? Honey?
This is for me. I would assume you want to ask a Shia about that one.
Mm,
Just a follow up to a previous question.
mhm,
Remember how the Muslims uh, they used to fast on Ashura, and then
mhm,
Hussein, alayhi salam, he passed away, and
mm.
so the Imams of the Shia ordered them to only fast half of that day or something like that.
Right?
Well, that would be new Sharia right there.
Good point. Good point. All
Um,
right.
Anyways, as for the Matam, again, it's best to ask a Shia. It's clearly a mixture of both religiosity and culture at this point. So it's like some cultural event they have, and they mix it with Islam.
Mm. Okay, here's another one. How does the average layman refute the infallible concept that Shias believe? Is that even possible, honey?
The infallibility.
Yeah, the concept of how would just a Sunni layman refute the concept of infallibility that Shias believe in? If we were going to keep it as simple as possible.
I mean, the simplest thing is to bring contradiction in the contradicting narrations from their book.
Yeah, that's one way of
Uh,
doing it. I would say the burden of proof is on you, Ya Shi'i. Prove that they're infallible. I think that makes it easier, I guess.
and then the verse of purification, they will call it the verse of purification, maybe to prove that they're infallible. But the verse of purification only says Ahlul Bayt,
Yeah,
and it's directed towards the wives. So
sure.
then, yeah, then they will deny. Then they will deny that it's the wives. They'll say, oh, according to Hadith, it's only Ahlul Kisa, the five individuals. And then you'll say, okay, all right. So how are you including the other members of Ahlul Bayt then, the
Right,
children of Hussein? So
right,
either way, it doesn't cover everybody.
right. I agree. I agree. Is there any truth about Shias saying that Bilal did not give bay'ah to Abu Bakr? Is it fabricated?
It's definitely fabricated. I know he didn't want to make adhan
Yeah.
until because he used to do adhan for the Prophet alone.
Yeah,
So he said, I don't want to do adhan for anybody else.
yeah,
But I think at some point, Omar really like begged him and told him, make adhan for us, please. We miss the adhan of the Prophet. And Bilal accepted, and it was a very emotional moment, and he did adhan for them. After so many years, they hadn't heard the voice of Bilal, so it reminded them of the Prophet. It reminded them.
yeah. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean that Bilal hated Abu Bakr or anything like that.
No, no, he was Bilal was freed by Abu Bakr. Abu
Yeah.
Bakr was the one who bought him and freed him, and he was known as being associated with Abu Bakr, and he loved Abu Bakr. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, subhanallah. Okay, so brothers, do Shias have any Sirah books? I heard the first noteworthy Sirah book wasn't written until 1000 after Hijrah. Um, Briefly, from my research, it seems like they really don't have any good Sirah books, and everything that they write in Sirah is based upon what we've done, based on the works of Ibn Ishaq. But that seems to be the reality of it, to be honest. So yeah, I don't know.
Not
I don't
just,
know. Hmm?
I'm saying not just the seerah of the Prophet, they have no sources for. I think also like if you want to learn about the life, let's say of who are the companions that they like. Well, Abu Dhar al-Ghafari. They don't have anything on Abu Dhar. Like
Yeah,
all the information on Abu Dhar is also from the books of the Sunnis. If
right.
you want to learn about the life of Abu Dhar al-Ghafari, go to their main books like Al-Kafi, Man La Yahdar al-Faqih, and all that. You won't find anything about his life.
Yeah.
Rarely will you find ever mention of him.
Um, I just want to point out that it was one of the Tabrasis who wrote a book of Sirah in the 6th century, I believe. I forgot which Tabrasi it was. That's one of the original books of Sirah. And if you go through it, it's just mainly based on Ibn Ishaq from beginning to end. And there are some small number of narrations from Ali bin Ibrahim al-Qummi. Apparently he had a book of Sirah as well, but that's completely lost. So, yeah. All right. This is really random. Have you guys heard of the book, The Satanic Verses by Salman Rushdie?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
I've heard of it
a
as well.
story. Yeah, from what I understand, it's a story. I haven't really researched it. It's a story, and he doesn't directly say that he's talking about the Prophet ﷺ. He makes it sound as if he's talking about somebody else.
Okay.
But when you read the story, you can kind of see that he's intending that this is the story of Sayyidina Muhammad ﷺ. So people got angry, and I remember Khomeini made that fatwa that he should be executed and all of that.
Yep.
And these are, what do you call them? These are the laws of apostasy laws. Which I don't know how nice these laws are. I mean, these laws are problematic even in the Middle East and Pakistan and a lot of countries. These laws of apostasy are a problem because anyone can be accused of apostasy according to these laws, and then they would get executed. So it's a big problem with freedom of speech, I would say.
All right, let's see. Seems like much of it has turned into a debate again. Do 12-verse Shias believe that doing taqiyya and mut'a would make them go to Jannah? I read something like that in their hadiths. Please clarify. Go for it, Akhi.
Well, since the 12-verse Shia exclusively believe in mut'a, like the Zaydi Shia, they narrate from Ahlul Bayt that mut'a is haram. The Ismaili Shia narrate from Ahlul Bayt that mut'a is haram. Ahlul Sunnah narrate from Ahlul Bayt that mut'a is haram. However, the 12-verse Shia narrate that mut'a is halal. So in order to promote it, because they are isolated, they're on their own, they fabricated narrations where they will tell you, oh, if you do mut'a, you will get the level of Hussein and Jannah. If you do mut'a, you will be this. If you do mut'a, you will be that. And the angels will pray for you when you wash your body and do ghusl after mut'a and all this stuff. As for taqiyya, also it's something that they're exclusively known for. I mean, the Zaydis never did taqiyya, nor did the Khawarij, pretty much, because Khawarij and Zaydis were rebels. They were military. They would confront the enemy. They wouldn't run away and do taqiyya. Ahl Sunnah as well. So also the Shia, the 12ers were known mostly for their taqiyya, and they would. And the reason they practiced it is because they had ridiculous beliefs. So they wanted to hide them at all times. And so, yeah, they fabricated a hadith that says that taqiyya is from the essentials of the religion, and you will be rewarded for doing taqiyya, and you should not leave taqiyya no matter what until the Mahdi comes.
I'd also like to point out that these narrations that praise mut'a, saying that you do mut'a, you get this and this in heaven, and you are on the same level of al-Hussein in heaven, stuff like that. Those are weak according to Shia Ilm al-Rajal. However, the very fact that those were fabricated shows that, in the first place, that this was something that people tried to recommend early on in the early days of Shiism. They were really trying to push to make this, a praiseworthy act, not just a matter that's halal, but they tried to make it, into a great action, a great deed that deserves a great reward. Okay, so here's one. How do you respond to the argument that the event of Ghadir Khum wasn't to clarify a dispute, because the dispute was already clarified beforehand? Very, very quickly, inshallah, Akhi, I ask, where is the evidence that this dispute was clarified beforehand? And I did hear Sayyid Ali mentioning this, but he didn't mention any source, he didn't mention any evidence for this. Um, Amr Ali or Amir Ali and Ali, guys in the chat listening to this, please do ask your questions. We're here, inshallah, for you guys. Instead of fighting with the Sunnis in the chat, please direct your questions or your hatred towards us, inshallah. We will not let you down. Seems like it's going crazy, Ahani.
I can't even see the chat. I'm just on my phone. As far as Ghadir Khum, obviously we know that when the soldiers returned with the Prophet ﷺ, when the soldiers returned to the Prophet ﷺ in Mecca, some of those soldiers walked in, and generally in Ali's army there was a big movement from among his own soldiers. They had big issues with them, mainly due to just due to jealousy, because he got, he has more of a status, he has more virtue than they do, and he also was able to select, from the war booty what he desired, whereas and they were left, I think, until the end. So there's some details there that you can check out. So when they returned, right away, 2 or 3 of these individuals went and complained to the Prophet. Among them was Burayd. And the Prophet told them, he got upset and he told them, "Man kuntu mawla, Ali mawla." And then when he realized the size of this issue, he told them to prepare a place for him to give his speech. This was on his way back with the people of to Medina. And then he stood up and mentioned the story of Thaqalain that we all know of. And then he reminded them at the end of that of Ali ibn Abi Talib, and he told them, "Man kuntu mawla, Ali mawla." And so he resolved that entire issue there. And Buraidah says that after he heard this, Ali became, very beloved to him. He would not, upset Ali after he heard the Prophet, say what he said.
Okay. This is a very quick one. What is the most mutawatir hadith in Sunni books narrated by most chains? That's hadith man kadhaba alayhi muta'ammidan fayatabawwa maq'adahu min nar. Those who lie against me purposefully, then hellfire awaits him, something along those lines. That's the most narrated hadith. Tabarani quotes like 180 chains for that narration. So yeah. Okay, so Amr Ali asks about the names of the 12 Sunni caliphs. Here's my answer. First would be Abu Bakr, Umar, then Uthman, then Ali, then Hassan, then Muawiyah, then Yazid, then Abdullah bin Zubair, then Abdul Malik bin Marwan, then Al-Walid bin Abdul Malik, then Sulaiman bin Abdul Malik, and then Umar bin Abdul Aziz. That's one list. Another list would be Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali, Al-Hasan, Muawiyah, Yazid, Muawiyah bin Yazid, Abdullah bin Zubair, Marwan bin Hakam, Abdul Malik bin Marwan, Al-Walid bin Abdul Malik. Very quickly, before you start freaking out about Yazid being in that list, the narration says nothing about the merits of those people. The narration is speaking about the state of Islam. Rasulullah ﷺ said, the state of Islam will be a state of glory until the passing of 12 caliphs. It doesn't say anything about these 12 caliphs being good people. And of course, this narration goes against the 12er belief, because only 2 of those were caliphs. Only Ali and Al-Hasan were caliphs, and not the rest. And secondly, and more importantly, the narration says that they are from Quraysh. It does not say they are from Bani Hashim or they are the children of Ali and Ali. The narration says they are from Quraysh. You know what that does? That legitimizes the caliphate of Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, and the rest of Bani Umayyah, because guess what? They're all from Quraysh.
Not just that, it says that Islam will be in a strong and fortified condition. And the Shia don't believe that Islam was in a strong and fortified condition. In fact, if you return to their original narrations, you'll find that everybody apostated. and except for like 6, 7 individuals, and that the leadership was given to tyrants, and that they changed the religion, and the true Quran was hidden, and
Yes.
Hussein was massacred in broad daylight, and you'll find that Islam was not strong. In fact, Islam was a mess in the time of the first 12, according to Shia. So this actually opposes their own belief.
Very true. He says, his response, he says, there you go. You don't even know who the 12 are. So
We just
why?
we just told you who they are. How is it that we don't know? You asked us.
He's referring to the difference of opinion in regards to some of the last ones, because some people would include Marwan bin Hakam and some people wouldn't.
Is knowing who they are even essential? Like, if
Exactly.
knowing who they were was essential to being a Muslim, they would have been mentioned either in the Quran, or the Prophet would have mentioned them one by one, and the Muslims would have taught their names to their children, and it would have been mass transmitted and mutawatir, and there would be no one who doesn't know their names. The same way everybody knows how to pray, the same way everybody knows what are the steps to wudu, the same way everybody knows, how to fast. So this is just a prophecy saying Islam will be strong until the passing of 12, and then it will be weakened, and that is what happened. Islam was strong at the beginning, and then it began to weaken little by little. And it doesn't even mean that it will never be strong afterwards. It's just specifically mentioning that it's in a state of decline, and this is similar to the hadith of the Prophet, that the best generations are my generation, then those after them, then those after them. What does that mean? It means that there's a decline. It's just declining and declining until the day of judgment. And you hear in the prophecies at the end of times, you will hear that it will become so bad that people won't even know anything about Islam, that people will have maybe Qur'ans in their houses, and they won't read them maybe, and they won't know anything about them. And so this is what he was generally saying there. He didn't say that there's like some 12 superhuman beings that are going to come after me, and they're the best thing that ever happened to the. He never says anything about that.
Allah barak fik, Hani. Let's see. Did Yazid order the killing of Hussein, or was it Ubaydullah bin Ziyad? The question, okay, very, very briefly, there is no evidence that Yazid ordered the killing of Hussein. The Shia report in Maqtal al-Hussein by Abi Makhnaf, which is the most authentic Shia rendition of Maqtal al-Hussein, says that al-Hussein, after he was surrounded, he wanted to surrender and solve his matter with Yazid by putting his hand in the hand of Yazid. And Sunni narrations are similar. They do mention that as well, through an authentic chain, through the path of Humayd bin Abdurrahman. So if al-Hussein wanted to put his hand in the hand of Yazid, it seems from that, we realize from that Yazid did not order the killing of al-Hussein, but rather was Ubaydullah. Okay. Here's a question, Hani. Shias often mention Khalid bin Walid and how he killed innocent people in a tribe. How do we refute the Shia and defend this righteous Sahabi?
I think you wrote an article on this.
All right. Well, very briefly, inshallah, there are two cases that Shias bring up. The first is Khalid bin Walid killing members from a tribe of. Do you remember the tribe, Hani? I'm stuck.
It's irrelevant.
Okay, so it was during a tribe. It was about a tribe in the time of Rasulullah ﷺ. And the response to this is that Rasulullah ﷺ did say, it was about what happened was Khalid bin Walid assumed that they were still kuffar, I believe, and he ordered them to be killed, even though they gave up. And I need to look it up. I really need to look it up. There's an article called on the website called "Is Khalid bin Walid a war criminal?" Something along those lines on 12vershia.net. I suggest you guys check it out. But basically, to refute that Khalid bin Walid is a bad person due to that, Rasulullah ﷺ still kept Khalid bin Walid as a emir for his armies after that occurred. Remember, Khalid bin Walid was in the army that was sent to Bahrain. He was in the army that was sent to Yemen. And not only was he in the army, he was leading that army. So if he was good enough for Rasulullah ﷺ, then he's definitely good enough for us. And during the time of the apostasy and the Ridda, he killed Malik bin Nuwayra. And the quick response to that is Malik bin Nuwayra was an apostate according to Al-Mufid. I believe in Kitab al-Ifsah fil Imama, he does mention that Malik bin Nuwayra was truly an apostate. So Shi'is today try to argue that Malik bin Nuwayra was a Muslim. However, the classical Shi'i view is that no, he wasn't a Muslim. He was an apostate.
I mean, Khalid bin Walid himself is not like a jurist or anything. He's a war commander. He excels in military. He's not from the top scholars as far as I know or anything. And if a mistake happens, during war, people repent. I mean, war is war, and mistakes are bound to happen. And some innocent people will be casualties, unfortunately. And Khalid didn't know how to deal with that situation. He had to act on the spot. When he returned, the Prophet ﷺ obviously corrected him and told him you shouldn't have done that, and he made dua to Allah, I recall. Allah.
Okay, honey, this one's for you. Is the concept of imama in the Quran?
Imama means leadership. Yes, there are people who are leaders in the Quran. The concept does exist in the Quran. But the concept of the 12 Shia, that all leaders are specifically appointed textually, and that they are infallible, and that they are this and this is not in the Quran. About just leadership, yeah, it's mentioned in the Quran. Talut was a leader, Fir'aun was a leader. There's a whole bunch of leaders in the Quran. So we do have leaders are called imams, so that you guys don't confuse things. Imam means leader, simply. You're asking me if there are leaders in the Quran. Yes, there are leaders. There's leaders of hellfire, A'immatul Kufr. There's leaders of goodness. So yeah, leadership is in the Quran, but not the Shia leadership. The Shia leadership is foreign to the Quran, in fact.
Allah barak fik, honey. I think we're going to call it a night. We don't want this to go on for too long, but inshallah, in the coming days, we're going to have more of these Q&A sessions, and inshallah, those viewing will find it beneficial. Guys, please do share this content if you enjoyed the content. Also, do subscribe to keep up to date, especially hit that notification button, because we're mainly doing live stuff, and it's always more enjoyable when more of you are online. I mean, today I've noticed that some of our regulars aren't online, and that is surprising to me. Honey, some of the regulars, they're on at the most random times when I think that no one's going to be on. They're on. MashaAllah, ya akhi. We have some true fans on here. Allah barak fihum. I think it's mainly fans of Hassan though, mashallah. All right. Any last words, honey? Anything you want to end this off with?
Not really. Just it would be interesting if we can have the Q&A sessions geared towards specific topics, so it's maybe not as random, but maybe that's too difficult. I mean, people want to ask what they want to ask at the end of the day.
Yeah, I agree. All right. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.